Do you want to improve your workflows? Is the efficiency of your workshop a little less than what you want? Well, let's discuss how putting a new floor down in my workshop led to great improvements into the efficiency of my workshop. Let's go. A few weeks ago, I released a video on putting down this new floor in the shop. And it is much brighter in here. It's easier, more comfortable to stand on. And if you drop something, it's a little less likely to break than on concrete. So that was the goal. But during that time, I figured since I had to move all my equipment to get the floor down, it was a great time to redesign the workshop. Okay, so I knew it would be a good opportunity to move some equipment around while I was putting the floor down. But why? You know, there were certain things that just didn't feel right about the way equipment was located. And so I thought about, well, what can I do to improve that? And as I was looking and researching different ideas, you know, I didn't feel as good information out there on workshop design, but there was a lot about kitchen design. And my wife and I have talked about many times that a workshop and a kitchen are pretty much the same thing. You're creating things, you're making things. So when I looked at some of the kitchen design principles, which I have listed up here, a lot of them rung true. A work triangle, when you have certain tools that you work together, you want to kind of keep them close and ability to work with them together. Work zones. I mean, a lot of people in their workshop have their planer and their jointer close to each other with their table saw because those are all being used at the same time. So that work zone made a lot of sense. Work surfaces. Obviously, we are working on benches and tabletops, and you need to have those work surfaces so that you can get to them and they're efficient. Storage. One of my big problems is I've got a lot of storage, but I have a little storage over here, a little storage over there, and there wasn't any consistency to how I stored. I'm still working on that, but that's a problem that I wanted to address. Aesthetics. Okay, maybe it's not that important in a workshop, but to me it is. I like my workshop. I spend a lot of time in here and I want it to look nice. One of the flooring issues was the aesthetic, and I found a big improvement because of the color and the lightness of it. So I look at aesthetics, ergonomics, the floor was more comfortable or is more comfortable, and that was a big part of what I was looking for. But you know, also your table height, your workbench height, how much you have to move to get to things. So ergonomics is important. Lighting to me was important. You know, I've found as I've gotten older, my eyesight's not as good. Lighting really helps that a lot. And then traffic flow. You know, where in a kitchen you have traffic flow of people walking through the kitchen to go to the living room or the dining room or whatever. But in a workshop, really that traffic flow for me was more about how do I get around things. So if I need to go over there, am I having to go sideways between pieces of equipment? How can do I have traffic flows through the shop that allow me to get from one work zone to another? So these are the principles that I was looking at in kind of relaying out my workshop. So let's look at those specifically at this point. Hopefully this floor will also be a little warmer and better for Tanner. He's not real crazy about it. I think the sound of it's a little different, so he's getting used to it. He's focused on the bone right now. But hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you do, hit the like and subscribe. It really does help. And let me know any improvements that you can make in your shop. This zone already existed. I have my jointer and planer side by side, right beside my table saw. Now this zone is where I knew I had some problems. I had my workbench here, my table saw there, and that was all good. But my chop saw was down the wall a little bit, and I had a 9-foot long bench here that really just became a place to gather things. I had intended to use it to kind of do some metal work when that kind of stuff came up, but it just never happened, and it just was very inefficient. I was always having to go around the table saw, and it was very cumbersome. So that's where I knew I needed some improvement. So by moving the bench back over against that wall, I can move the chop saw back up, move my X tool down here since I don't use it quite as much as my other things. And then that had a place. This became not just a zone, but also I had that good work triangle because I have my bench, my chop saw, my table saw. Everything worked pretty well here. So moving the workbench to this side of the shop, I was faced with the problem that I still had a 9-foot long bench that just took up way too much room. As much as I hated to do it, I decided I was going to cut the bench down to about 6 feet. This bench was built by my father in the early 60s and has followed me around to a lot of workshops. I liked it, but it just had to come to the point that it was too long for what I needed. So by doing that, I still have a place where I keep my spray paints. I can now have my big heavy duty metal vise here. I've got plenty of room to work. I have some bits and bobs and my tools here and some more tools over here that I may use when working on, I don't know, refurbishing a plane or something like that. So this area seemed to work really well. Now, another place I wanted to improve was here behind the jointer. My dust collector sat here, which didn't allow enough room by the jointer. I didn't have room enough for my router and disc sander to give me space. And it was always difficult to get to the bag on the dust collector. So there was a lot of improvement needed here. By moving the dust collector down about 4 feet, turning it, I was able to get to the bag easier. I made more room here for my disc sander and router and gave me more room here by the jointer. One other issue was because the dust collector was here, there was a bunch of space back here that just couldn't be used very well. I had the bandsaw back there, but I usually had to move it out and I just didn't like it. So that made a big improvement in the whole area. Another zone that I was able to create was this area with my 2 bandsaws. I'm lucky enough to have 2. I have an 18-inch bandsaw with an 1.25-inch resaw blade, and then I have a 14-inch bandsaw with a 3/8-inch blade that I use for general cuts. Now, on the far wall of my workshop, tucked in behind the bandsaws, is where I'm starting to build my storage area. I moved some cabinets over to here and some of the different storage boxes that I had for supplies. And this is not finished. It's not what I want it to be like. But for now, at least I'm starting to get things more centrally located so I don't have to look all over the shop for different pieces of supplies. My wife likes to give me a hard time about rearranging my workshop. And yeah, I know, I do rearrange it a good bit. But this time I think I've really nailed some efficiency points that I've been lacking. And I'm very pleased with the way I've got it laid out. I'm going to continue building the storage area out. I've got some improvements to the workbench and my secondary table saw. So we'll be making some more changes and I'll be making videos about that. But hopefully you found some ideas and some things in this video that you'll be able to use in your workshop. Thanks for stopping by.